What's up, A to Z Sports? Easton Freeze here, joined by JT Runke. Happy Thursday morning. Hope everybody's having a great back half of their week. Excited to be back with you guys here on the show, not from Flowery Branch Wi-Fi, but from my home internet. I don't think yesterday went well. I apologize for that. Hopefully, you guys got your fill of content from Titans-Falcons joint practice on the ground there. I did enjoy going down there, all jokes aside, all Falcons-related headaches aside. It was nice to be there on site, being able to talk with the players and the coaches and see what happened, and got a lot from that trip. We're going to talk about it today, talk about a number of elements of it, talk about some Cam Ward comments, going to talk about a recap of yesterday's practice. Whole lot to get into. Excited about that. Excited about the Titans' second preseason game, which is just tomorrow night. Time is flying. We now have, I believe, 18 days until a real game week, 5 padded practices until a real game week. So the train is rolling down the tracks, screaming down the tracks towards the NFL regular season, and the Titans have a lot of work to do before they are prepared to face the Denver Broncos. Excited to get into a number of topics, a real cornucopia of topics this morning. JT, excited to be doing it with you on the show. Love a good old-fashioned Easton and JT show. Before we get into all of those things, though, JT, if you would not mind telling the fine folks at home what they need to do.
Yeah, good morning, A to Z crew. Good to see all of you guys in here this morning. We got to come up with it seems like this is a recurring theme. It's me and you on Thursdays. We got to come up with a special name for these shows on Thursdays.
That's a good point.
Every time that me and you get on a screen together, we don't know what's going to happen. Like, who knows what's going to happen? But if you guys are excited for it,
it's usually unscripted and unprofessional. That's our brand.
that is a good way to sum it up. But if you guys are excited for today's show, please do us a favor, hit that like button on YouTube and Facebook. And if you're watching over on YouTube, make sure you are subscribed. Make sure that subscribe button down there has a D at the end. Make sure it's subscribed so that you are not missing any of the coverage that we are putting out for the Titans in a pivotal 2025 season for the team. Easton, Bork said it perfectly. You said, F that game on Friday. You're going home. You could not take it anymore. Flowery Branch, is the food good there? Like, what's the vibe? I heard
food good there.
You were working out of a Chili's yesterday.
I was about to say, that's about all you need to know right there, is that was that
the cream of the crop that Flowery Branch has?
No, I don't want to throw Flowery Branch under the bus too hard. It wasn't like I found the best place. I just found the place that I was most likely to be a decent place to go crack open a laptop for a couple hours and not be run off by people that wanted me to, buy more food. And I figured Chili's employees, they don't care if you just set up camp for a minute in the middle of the day. So, but Flowery Branch is kind of like, I don't know, I'm trying to compare it to something in Nashville. It's kind of Spring Hill-y. And there's some nicer areas. It's a little bit in the middle of nowhere, but it's not undeveloped. It's just clearly out of town. But also Atlanta is all of the Atlanta area and 100 miles in every direction is just sprawl. Everything is Atlanta at this point. So you don't really feel like you're in the middle of nowhere, even though you look around and you're like, it's a Chili's and a football field. That's about it around here. So that's Flowery Branch for you. Nice weather. So I'm trying to think of nice things to say. It wasn't terrible weather.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. Well, and listen, maybe we need to find some better answers, because people are starting to put recommendations for what we need to call today, or like Thursday shows. Jeff saying throwaway Thursday. No. Bork saying B team Thursday. How dare you?
That's crazy. A team Thursday. How dare you?
Yeah, but let's get into it. I'm excited.
Okay, let's officially start the show. Welcome into the A to Z Sports live show here on a Thursday. We are live each and every weekday on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook, so follow us there. We are live each day around 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. As I'm trying to find the show script, where did it go? Here we go. The links are tweeted out segment by segment on our Twitter feed at ATOZ Sports. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok for more Titans coverage. And please leave us a 5-star Google review. We appreciate those. Got to thank our sponsors for making the show happen and helping out you guys at home. Wilson County Hyundai. Make Wilson County Hyundai a part of your new car buying process in Lebanon or WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And the Bone and Joint Institute of Tennessee, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedics and sports medicine, boneandjointtn.org. Okay, JT, where do we want to begin? How about a little joint practice recap from yesterday's festivities? I was out there. Practice started a little bit later than they had begun the previous day. The sun was shining a little bit more through the clouds, a little bit of a warmer day, and it certainly was hotter out on the field, not in terms of temperature, but in terms of tempers flying. It was a fight fest there in the first hour, 15 minutes. Don't know if you heard about this. Whole lot of fighting. I would list all the people involved in the fights, but frankly, it might be easier to list for you the number of people that weren't involved in fights. It was just about everybody, particularly troublesome on the Falcons offense, Titans defense field. That's where most of the tomfoolery was taking place. That's where the original fight took place. Jeffrey Simmons ended up with his helmet off. Drake London, I think, ended up with his helmet off. We got quarterbacks in there, which is always elevates things because those guys, you want to protect them physically. And so you got Michael Penix in the mix. And after this one big main fight that was a bench clearing brawl and took 3 or 4 or 5 minutes for everybody to actually get off the field and get back to practice, it was a bunch of like tremors, aftershocks from the original earthquake. It felt like every other tackle from that point on that field was really trying to turn into another big fight, that it was having to be broken up by more level-headed teammates and coaches. And there were a lot of little skirmishes after that. And then things really jumped the shark when we went into a special teams period and we were doing punt return drills, and punt return turned into a fight, which is crazy because it was literally just the punter punting the ball and then 2 gunners and 2 defenders and 1 punt returner. So like 5 active players on the field, and we still found a way to fight each other. Van Jefferson pushing and shoving. Alec Iamaner ended up thrown on the ground and ended up, getting up and flying back into the fray. It was, it got very close to silly season with the fighting.
Yeah, so much so that it gets to a point where I and this is maybe not the most fair point in the world, but it's like I saw a couple beat writers saying like, there's nothing good getting done. There's no productive work being done at that point. And because
there's nothing good being done, there's nothing bad being. There's just nothing being done.
Yeah,
we're just wasting our time.
Yeah,
is it entertaining for us to watch?
Yes.
Absolutely. But are we accomplishing anything in the joint? The thing we came all the way, we moved an entire billion-dollar franchise down here for the week to do. No, we weren't doing that. So that all ended eventually, and none of that speaks to how the day actually went for the offense and the defense for the Titans. So let's talk about how they looked. If you, I'm assuming you guys talked at length yesterday, you and Austin, about the struggles from day one. And from what I could surmise from when I was on the show, that's what we were talking about. I don't really know what was happening during that 20 minutes that I was here. It was a definitively better day. That does not mean that it was a good day. I would not call it a good day of practice. I would call it a fine day of practice. I think that it was 2 teams that fought to a stalemate for the most part. It was not a beat down of the Titans the way that day 1 of joint practices was. They looked more evenly matched. The Falcons offense still certainly got the better of the Titans defense more often than not, I would say. I think one of the side notes from my time in Flowery Branch is that I am higher on the Falcons offense than I previously was. I think Michael Penix, I don't know, he might just be good. He looks good. Like, I'm not all the way in or anything, but I was impressed. Thought he looked the part. And I thought that offense was a tight operation. But the biggest difference in watching that offense and watching the Titans offense really is that there are some very, very evident playmakers on that offense, whereas the Titans outside of Calvin Ridley are still kind of looking for those guys to emerge. The Falcons offense, it's easy in practice to look good when you have Drake London, who can get anything that he wants. Bijan Robinson, who's obviously a stud. Kyle Pitts is out there and does look big and fast and strong, and they're throwing him the ball and he's catching it. So, we'll see if that translates to anything meaningful in the regular season. Fool me. What is it now? Fool me 4 times. What number are we on at this point?
I think it is 4.
So we'll see about that, but he looks good in practice. I had forgotten Kirk Cousins was on this team until I saw him and I was like, hey, Kirk's out here. How about that? That's kind of it. I mean, the Titans offense, that's not kind of it. Forget about the Titans offense. The thing you probably want the most to know about. It was a tighter operational day for them. It felt like they pulled back the reins a little bit on pushing the ball down the field or trying to push the ball down the field. On day one, they were trying more second and third level field throws, a lot of intermediate stuff in the deep middle, and then trying to push to the boundaries up the sidelines, and it just wasn't connecting much at all on day one. Day two, it was more screens, it was more quick out routes, quick ins, crossers, stuff that is, I think, going to be the bread and butter of this offense. And the thing frankly, at first, maybe the only thing that they can do consistently well as a passing offense, just because that's where I think they're going to start here. So more of that, and a lot of continued volume to Alec Manor. We're going to talk about that, I think, more tomorrow. I'm going to write about that today. He's somebody that they continue to get volume to. Calvin's getting the ball a whole lot. Tony Pollard, with Tajay Spears out, is getting the ball a whole lot. Chikakonkwo is getting the ball a whole lot. But there weren't many touchdowns to speak of, even though they had a couple of red zone periods. It was just a fine day. I really don't have anything else to say about it besides it being a fine day.
Now, when you say fine, that is still, I think, because we were talking about how towards the end of the show yesterday, we were expecting things to bounce back, and they bounced in a certain direction in terms of the energy and the urgency. Would you say that now that was drastically different than the first day? Because I think that's an important distinction, right? Because even if the play on the field still was a little bit of a stalemate, that certainly is an improvement in the opposite direction from day one. But even more so of an improvement, would you say the energy and the urgency and things like that, and the mentality that the Titans came out with, was definitely a bounce back from what they displayed on Wednesday, or I guess Tuesday's practice?
Yeah, there was no doubt about that. The way that they came out on Tuesday, a lot of talk about the sluggishness, the slow start. There was none of that on Wednesday. The energy was a lot higher. The urgency, you could feel the edge of practice in the air, really, from both teams. Because again, we talked about the Titans because we talked about the Titans, but on Tuesday it was the Titans and the Falcons both just starting slow. Like, neither team really brought a whole lot of energy to the beginning of practice, and neither really picked. I mean, the Falcons were they were a more productive team, clearly, on Tuesday, but they weren't any more energetic, it didn't feel like, or marginally so. It was today, or yesterday on Wednesday, that both teams came out really, and a number of players talked to us about that after practice, where if you've been around the block, if you've done double joint practices before in the past, this is kind of the script for it. You come in like you've traveled, you come in a little, it's a unfamiliar situation for you, whether you're the home team or the away team. Everybody's kind of feeling each other out. No one wants to, do anything crazy, get hurt, whatever. And then by day two, you just hate each other already. And so you're starting to, start fights and push and shove. And so that's what happened for the Titans and the Falcons. But the energy and the slow start element of this team, not a problem yesterday.
Yeah, I think that's fair, I would say. You also bring up an interesting point. Like, I tried to make this case yesterday on the show, and apparently just like people did not want to believe it. Like, the Falcons are not a bad team by any stretch of the imagination. Like, they have some good pieces, like you were saying, on that offense. Now,
I think the offense is good. We'll see if the defense is any good. I mean, they have some players.
Some good pieces, I would say. You talk about a dynamic safety duo in Jesse Bates and the new rookie Xavier Watts. You have AJ Terrell on the outside. It's hard to say anything about the defensive line because it continues to feel like we hear.
You got no Luke or Horo thoughts? He was out there.
I do not. Besides that, like you said, he's out there. Not doing much else besides that. I will say, like, it's hard to also Luke
or Horo.
It's hard to like say anything about the Falcons defensive line because we continue to hear nothing about how these units go up against the Titans offensive line, which is a good thing. Like, we hear nothing about the opposing team in these joint practices doing anything against the Titans offensive line, which I think is probably the biggest bright spot out of these first 2 weeks in these two joint practice periods between these two teams. But all of that to say, you talk about this team having maybe a better day yesterday, but not the best. There's some good, some bad. And then you go into Cam Ward's press conference yesterday, in which he is setting these expectations that do not necessarily line up with the description of what you just said in your takeaways from practice.
No, they do not. And so that's going to be our first question of the day. I have no more thoughts to share from yesterday's practice. So let's zoom out. Let's get some bigger picture thoughts on the joint practices in Atlanta. And I want to start with Cam because we spoke with him after practice yesterday. It was pretty good after practice, actually, yesterday. I say one of his better media availabilities, really gave us some good insight into where he and the team are at right now. I don't know if you saw him embodying Jesus Christ at one point when we were down there.
We did touch on that yesterday.
Okay, I'm glad it's been touched on the show. Crazy work by the internet. But that's neither here nor there. He did talk to us yesterday about his feeling on his offense, his offensive line, his receiving core, his coaching staff, and he is very optimistic. So let's ask the question and then play the video, and then we'll reiterate the question, JT. The question is, what's your reaction to Cam Ward having top 10 expectations for the Titans offense? And if you're wondering, what are you talking about, Easton? Well, we have the video to show you Cam Ward talking about the top 10 offense, and here it is right here.
How do you feel like this offense stacks up against pro defenses? You've seen it live. How do you feel this stacks up?
Well, I think we honestly have the ability to be a top 10 offense, but also it goes on every guy in that huddle, including myself, bringing the right mindset every day. And us also playing together. I think that's the biggest things that we always play together. We never point fingers at each other on both sides of the ball, and we just got to always have that mindset that we can be the best offense in the NFL. And then it really just comes with just us caring about each other on the field, off the field, and I think a lot of that stuff will translate to the game.
But wait, there's more. Here's Cam Ward talking about how his receiving core is top 5 in the NFL.
Give you that confidence that you could be a top 10 offense?
Just the playmakers that I have in the backfield with me, the running back core, then especially in the receiving core. I think I also have a top 5 receiver core in the NFL, including the young guys who are able to make plays. It's really all about just us or myself putting the ball in their frame of work, letting them make a play. And then it's also those guys being aggressive to make plays for the team. And then the O-line, I don't have to worry about them. That's going to always be the standpoint. Those guys, they bring the energy every day, especially starting with JC. So I'm excited to be behind those guys. Those guys pass protection. They keep me clean. Really, I would say 8 times out of 10. I know I'm going to take a bad sack this year. They're going to give up a sack this year, but we just got to continue to play, good, clean football.
Top 5 offense, top 5 receiving core. That's what Cam Ward thinks he might have on his hands here in Tennessee. Do we think that? Find out after the break. The answer is no. We do want to talk about the question, though, being what are your thoughts on, or excuse me, what is your reaction to Cam Ward having top 10 expectations for the Titans offense? What do you think about that? Let us know in the comments on Facebook or on YouTube. But first, let me tell you about our friends over at Lipscomb Sports Analytics, where data meets the game. Analyze, strategize, revolutionize, turn your passion into a profession. Go beyond the box score with game-changing insights and career-defining skills. Everybody in sports media tends to get questions from those outside of sports media along the lines of, how do you get into sports media? I know I get this question a lot. I know that Austin and JT get these questions a lot. And the answer is there is no clear and obvious path. It's not like becoming a doctor. You don't just go to med school for 8 years and then suddenly they give you a stethoscope. There are a number of ways that you can get into sports media. And I would venture to say that a background in analytics, especially in the big 2025, would be a fantastic way for you to get into sports media, because analytics are an increasingly important part of the game. And our friends over at Lipscomb do a fantastic job with their new program, the Lipscomb Sports Analytics program, teaching you everything you need to know for actionable insight in the real world, in the actual business of sports. So get off the sidelines and into the action with Lipscomb Sports Analytics program, where you'll learn to make the calls that count.
Yeah, if you guys are joining us right now, we're talking about Cam Ward's crazy expectations for the Titans season.
How dare you say that they're crazy? How dare you?
Well, we'll get into that here in just a second. But if you can do us a favor, leave us a hit that like button leave us a subscription. Make sure you are subscribing on YouTube. Make sure that button, it has a little D at the end. Subscribe into subscribed, and we'll get to your answers here in just a second. It is crazy. I think they are crazy to say. But
okay.
Let's see
what do the people in the comments think?
Yeah, let's see what the chat says.
Connor, you crazy because you put the word crazy in the show graphic. So
well, I was just technically, if you want to start playing the blame game, I put the crazy in the show graphic because Austin Stanley put crazy in the show in the thumbnail. So
I thought you were going to immediately throw me under the bus for asking you to make the show graphic when I was supposed to make the show graphic. So now I'll just go ahead and throw myself.
I was being a good team player there. I was throwing Austin under the bus. Connor Kills says, true. What else is he supposed to say? Nah, my wide receivers and offensive line suck.
Hey, good point,
Todd Apple says, honestly, he loves the confidence from Cam. What else is he supposed to say? Also says, shoot for the moon and you'll land in the stars. So happy that he is having.
I saw that on a third grade wall once.
He's having more expectations and confidence. Eric, on the opposite side, though, says it's the biggest red flag. He thinks Cam talks too much. Christian says it's got him feeling nicey. Aubrey saying he's supposed to feel that way. He likes that attitude in his quarterback. Daniel saying he loves it. Cam has always believed and willed things into existence throughout his career. Alex saying Cam is confident, but that is not realistic. Darren saying he thinks Cam is a rookie and really doesn't have a full grasp on the NFL yet. Darius saying that he's happy and expected. Steven saying he thinks Cam Ward is overconfident. Jeff saying Cam Ward is just as loony as Titans fans. It's a perfect match, apparently. Bork saying he is a leader and a
resident Ohio State fan chimes in on Looney Tunes. Got it.
And Yannick saying, love the optimism, but he's keeping his hope in check. Tall Texan saying, wide receiver room is 5 spots below 32. Woof.
Wow, 37th overall. How'd you factor that?
Very interesting. A lot of blind optimism, but a lot of optimistic and excited thoughts. They feel good about their quarterback being a overconfident guy.
JT, I think somebody who is going to step up and be the hero that we need and hold Cam Ward accountable for his words. I read on the internet yesterday, and I forget who said it. Oh well, that somebody needs to hold Cam Ward accountable, which at first struck me as strange because this person, I was like, why don't you just hold him accountable yourself? And then I realized why he couldn't. But JT, you seem to think that these words are crazy. Tell me a little bit about your actual, all bits aside, all joking aside. What does this actually mean to you? Do you actually care about what Cam Ward is saying here?
No, I mean, it goes back to the same conversation.
Okay, cool. Are you ready for sports trivia?
Nope,
don't care.
To the same conversation we had when he was saying that Treylon Burks was going to be one of his best receivers out there, obviously, before he gets hurt. He's being a hype man. He is, to take it from the comments, he is shooting for the moon. He is trying to will his team to being this top 10 offense. But the reality is, it's a lot easier to say that than do that. And I think that's something that Cam Ward and this offense are going to learn this season, that going from averaging 17 to 18 points per game on a consistent basis last year, adding, a rookie quarterback, but not much else that is going to really elevate this team. It's going to be harder to become a top 5 offense that's averaging 28, 29 points a game. I think that's the reality of the situation. I think you also talk about the wide receiver position and how he wants to be top 5 there as well. Outside of Calvin Ridley, I know there are some good things being said about Alec Ayumanor, but outside of that, you still have some just basically role players in that wide receiver room. And it would take a whole heck of a lot of scheming.
Top 5 role players.
Yes, top 5 role players. It'll take a whole heck of a lot of scheming to get those role players to become the wide receiver 2 and 3 of top 5 wide receiver cores.
I'm so distracted because I mentioned Michael Penix one time 19 minutes ago, and the chat is still hung up on making Michael Penix jokes, which if you're a Falcons media person must just get so old. I think that there are a couple of layers to this. I'm with you that it doesn't actually, unlike some people on the internet that are genuinely bothered by this, I could really couldn't care any less in terms of my opinion of him as a person, as a quarterback. It does not impact that at all. I do think that this is part perspective, maybe a perspective delusion, and part a bit. So the perspective part, and this is, I mean, not to throw strays at past Cam Ward situations. He's never had, like, as somebody put it on the internet yesterday, who unlike the last time I said this on the show, I really can't remember who said this one. So I apologize. But Cam Ward's last receiving core, when he was at his best in any point in his football life at Miami as a was he a senior, senior, as a senior, was with a receiving core where the best receiver is now fighting for probably a practice squad spot in the NFL. And that's Xavier Restrepo, right? On his own team, on a team, by the way, that, as we're sitting here talking about, does not really have a top 5 wide receiver core, or a top 10 or a top 15 or probably a top 20 receiving core at the moment. So that perspective of, now that he has a Calvin Ridley, which we heard him talk about, a month or so ago in his YouTube vlog when he was at Miami over the summer, and was kind of just off the cuff talking about his experience with Ridley so far and his praise for him. It's like it's like the allegory of the cave. Like, you let these cavemen out to see the world in 3D for the first time, and they have no idea. They, as I was talking with Austin earlier this week about it, it's like those viral YouTube clips when, somebody that's colorblind puts on the special tech science glasses, and now they can see the world in color for the first time. Or somebody gets a cochlear implant and they can hear for the first time, and they're like, a son or daughter hears their mother's voice for the first time, and it's tears, and it goes, quadruple platinum on Facebook because moms think it's the best video in the world. That's what this is for Cam Ward and his receiving core. So I get it to an extent that he's like, these guys are way better than anybody I've ever played with. This rules. This is awesome. These guys are NFL caliber players. And he doesn't have perspective. I mean, go let this guy do one offseason practice where he's just like buddying up with, Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and AJ Brown for a day. And he'll probably, change it up a little bit on how he sees his own group. But isn't it fair to say that, like, of course he thinks these guys are way better, because he's never played with anybody as bad as we think this group is in comparison to the rest of the NFL. And we don't think that they're very good right now. They're all promise for the most part. It is significantly better than anything he's ever had at his disposal.
For sure. I do think that your point is valid. However, I do also think we have to remember that Cam Ward, even before he ever put on a Titans jersey, was on Fortnite saying that Calvin Ridley was one of the best 3 receivers in the NFL.
And that's the bit part. It's half bit, half perspective.
Yeah. So there is some of that to him, but also I think it's just the confidence that if he brings this, and I see a lot of people in the comments talking about his leadership style here, that if he just brings this kind of blind, enthusiastic, almost obnoxious confidence at times, it's going to kind of trickle down, and it's going to rub off on some of these players, and especially players who, like Calvin Ridley, like some of these other wide receivers and tight ends who have been here for the last 2-3 years or so, who have not had that type of confidence instilled in them since it's been kind of beaten out of them over the last couple of years. I do think that is the plan there in his leadership style, to bring those guys up with him through blind optimism, and hopefully that when you get to the field of play and you are out there on the field, that's going to display itself. It's going to prove and provide dividends.
Yeah, I have a couple more thoughts on the bit of it all, and like what I think he's doing, and actually, in all seriousness, how it is something that I like to see out of my quarterback. But first, a couple of comments that caught my eye. Brandon is referencing the fact that I referenced the allegory of the cave has turned him off to what he thinks is a slow news day. So he's tuned out of the show. Listen, brother, you need to read up on the allegory of the cave. That was a good reference on my part. It's high level stuff. Major Key says, don't y'all believe that it's up to a quarterback on how good their receivers are? Levis was trash last year. Give Mahomes the Titans receivers last year, and they'd be a top 5 receiver core. So your exact example, I think, is certainly an exaggeration. Partly because I don't think Mahomes makes last year's receiving core top 5. Also because Mahomes last year didn't make his own receiving core top 5 because Mahomes was kind of topic for another day. But you are right that the quality of the quarterback, we've talked about this on the show all summer. The quarterback position is the deodorant of the football team, right? Like a good quarterback, a great quarterback covers up, masks the putrid smell of just about anything else going on. For the most part. Now, there's some very unique situations where like Joe Burrow is one of the strongest deodorants in the world, and even he couldn't cover up the stank coming from that defense last year. But for the most part, they can cover those things up, and they can make their group seem a whole lot better than they are. So I'm with you on that, and I do think that that's part of the upside of this group, that Cam Ward, if he hits, will. I mean, think about Jaden Daniels last year and his receiving core, and we're like, oh yeah, it was Terry McLaurin, and then the mother boys that were out there in Washington.
Noah Brown. And
right, exactly. The corpse of Zach Ertz was rolling around out there. So
yes.
That's so rude. Corpse is rude. Nursing home. He's not dead yet. That's what a good quarterback can do for a group. And that's what a good version of Cam Ward can do. There was one more comment. Connor says, this is kind of a tease for tomorrow. Do we have a clip of Cam talking about stability? I think that's an interesting conversation, considering the entire coaching staff is reliant on Cam's success, and Amy Adams-Strunk is not known for being patient. It is very interesting, Connor. I have some quotes that you guys haven't heard yet, actually, from some time that I spent at the team hotel on Tuesday. That is going to become a pretty good story that will run either today or tomorrow, and we will absolutely talk about it on the show. It might be the entire Monday show for all I know, because it's a really, really interesting conversation. And as I teased on the last YouTube video that I put up after yesterday's practice, JT, you and I have talked about this a little off the air. I would bet serious money right now, today, that this coaching staff gets at least a second year with Cam Ward. And I think it has a lot less to do with the belief in the coaching staff and just, we love these guys, we don't want to fire them. And has a whole lot more to do with the people in charge of hiring or firing the coaching staff are terrified of screwing up Cam Ward. And they believe that maybe the number one easiest way to do that would be to screw with his continuity, and firing his coaching staff and giving him a new offensive system to learn in year two is textbook continuity disaster for I mean, how many quarterbacks have we seen end up? It's hard to say chicken or the egg. Like, was it the quarterback's fault or the continuity's fault? But, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Geno Smith, all these guys that come to mind where this guy's had 7 coordinators in his first 3 years, blah, blah, blah. That never goes well. It never goes well. And sometimes those guys find success when I saw them way off the beaten path now, but I saw a Cold Takes Exposed tweet yesterday, Theo Ash, circa 2022, where he was talking about how Baker Mayfield just probably stinks and is out of the league in a year. And now look at him. Yeah. Now look at him in Tampa, getting a lot of money and clearly a top 15, top 10 quarterback in the league. So we will talk about that, Connor. But back to the bit element of this, JT.
I was going to say real quick, along those lines, we did touch on that yesterday, even before the Titans kind of bounced back. Austin kind of put this out in the air that he would bet money that Brian Callahan would get 3 more years. It's more likely that Brian Callahan would get 3 more years of coaching this team than to be fired this year.
If you gave me that binary choice, I would bet on the 3 years. Yeah.
Yes. So that's where we kind of ended up yesterday in an extreme kind of way. But yeah, the point still stands. So
Garrett poses an important question here. What brand deodorant do we think Cam Ward is going to be? Is he an Old Spice Swagger with cedarwood? Is he, God forbid, he's an Axe body spray? Is he a Degree Cool Rush? What deodorant drop in the chat what you think deodorant
That's our
Cam
second
Ward
question.
should be. That's our second question today. Sponsored by Lipscomb Sports Analytics. What deodorant brands do you think Cam Ward could be this year? Okay, man, you guys are killing it in the comments here. I'm saving some. We'll get to some odds and ends here. If you guys have any general questions about practice, by the way, I'd say today is the day to just kind of fire them off, and we'll keep an eye out for them, and I'll be sure to touch on them at the end of the show here. But the last thing on the Cam Ward comments, because we do have some other things to get to. Big show today. He's obviously doing a bit. And like the whole, we got to hold this guy accountable for his word, blah, blah, blah. I do find it fascinating that, and this kind of smacked me in the face yesterday, after talking to team officials, important team folks at the team hotel on Tuesday, and then Wednesday morning getting up and watching practice and then listening to Cam Ward at the podium. There's this, and JT, you felt this. I think anybody that's paying attention knows this. There's been this concerted effort this year, I think appropriately so, across the entire organization, from presidents on the, Burke Nihill on the business side to Chad Brinker, Mike Borgonzi, Brian Callahan, every assistant coach, every coordinator, a whole lot of these players. Let's bring the temperature down a little bit. Let's set expectations reasonably. Let's, do you guys think this team can win a Super Bowl this year? We saw how that answer went from Mike Borgonzi and Chad Brinker. Like, that's kind of the vibe, is let's lower the expectations. Let's make sure everybody understands to the best of our ability. This is a rebuild. We are in phase one. Obviously we're trying for a Super Bowl, but it's a stepping stone year. It's a stepping stone year. And then once a week, Cam Ward pops his head up out of his gopher hole and is like, "Oh, we might actually be the best, guys. We might be the best. We might be awesome." Which to me is very funny. Is it important? No. But he clearly has a different set of rules for himself at the podium than just about anybody else in the organization. And I think that's actually a pretty admirable way for a quarterback to carry themselves. Do you feel the same way?
It is a different way from anything I feel like we've seen over the past 3 or 4 years, but also just in general. Yes, it is just kind of flat out lying. I saw Bork calling him crash out Cam.
Lying. Yeah, lying on the internet.
Like, it is just kind of funny to see a quarterback have this much blind optimism and just not care about the repercussions of it this early. And he's great at it. And this is what there's a couple comments in here. A couple people were saying, well, you guys are calling Cam Ward a great quarterback. That's just, you're hearing words and associating them without you're picking words out of a sentence and putting them together. And that's your narrative. He's great at having so much expectations for himself, but not like for the rest of the team. Like, I think what I say by that is, like, he'll just say whatever he wants about the rest of the team in hopes that it brings them up. But I think behind closed doors, he knows what this team is, and he knows like who his guys are, but he's going to say publicly that all of his guys are the greatest in the world. And that's something that he should be doing, but he's not going to have any more expectations on anybody else more than he has for himself.
The best way that I can describe it, and I hope this makes sense to people, I think that Cam Ward's style at the podium is intentional delusion that's believable enough to inspire confidence. I think everybody that is, especially third parties not involved in the team, just kind of watching it all happen, understands some of the laughable things that he's saying and the clear exaggeration. And I think those of us that are reasonable understand that Cam is certainly not a dumb person. And he knows that these things are a stretch, but I think it's a consistent reflection of the way that he carries himself in front of the camera, in the locker room, in the meeting room, in the cafeteria, on the plane. He knows that he is the leader of this team, and he is constantly looking to inspire confidence in his teammates by putting the utmost confidence in them and not wavering in that. Whenever you're a part of a team, and I think anybody can relate, whether it's in work or whether you played sports, when you start to get in your head about whether or not, your teammates really believe in you, whether or not you think they really trust you, whether or not you think they're really on the same page as you, that is a pretty toxic mindset for any team to be in. And that's where divisions start to build and resentment starts to build. And that's the genesis of just about any sports team that starts pointing fingers at each other, because it becomes a blame game at that point when you're not confident your teammates are confident in you. And Cam Ward, he knows this year could be rocky. There could be a lot of turbulence. He's starting early, laying the groundwork, I think, by saying, hey, my offensive line, man, I trust those guys to protect me. I think they've got me. I'm not worried about them. My wide receiver group, I think they can be awesome. And, kind of inferring if they're not awesome, then I need to be better. I need to be better out there, because I think that we can be really great. That is the right foundation for a young team to set. And I think it's the right way for a quarterback to carry himself. And again, those of us on the outside understand what he's saying. I think those of us that are reasonable understand what he's saying is a little bit out of left field, is a little bit over the top. And I'm sure his teammates in their hearts know, like, man, he doesn't really think we're a top 5 receiving core. Like, Chimere Dike is not sitting there like, oh yeah, maybe I am a top 5 receiver. No. But what they are seeing is, man, my quarterback believes in me. That's what's important, is that they're like, man, my quarterback believes in me and I believe in him. And that's what you need in a group like this that is going to struggle.
Yeah, Tyler Lockett definitely is on the same page as like a Devonta Smith or a T. Higgins right now. Absolutely. That's where we are. That's what he believes. But I agree with that sentiment. And I think this comment is a little interesting. It's like Edward says, they better build a lot of confidence because Denver might eat into that, going up against one of the best defenses in the entire league. Like if they have a bad day against a really good defense, at least you're going to have that confidence built up that like this is a team that still believes in you, even if you come out in your first like showing as a group and just flat out, for lack of a better term, fall flat and do not have the offensive production that they have been talking up this entire offseason. Like at least you have that confidence behind you. And I think that's important, especially for this quarterback who is bringing in not only himself as a new face in here, but a new energy, a new tempo, a new vibe that this team has not had maybe ever.
Yeah, I agree. So let's get to our second topic here today before we wrap things up. And we've got a number of questions from you guys that are kind of odds and ends on practice, which we will get to before the end of the show. I promise you that. One of them, though, from Daniel Caribbean. Could Marcus Harris pass Darrell Baker on the depth chart? A perfect transition into our second topic and our second question, our real second question of the day, which is which new Titans defender getting starter reps in practice is more impactful? Linebacker Cedric Gray, or cornerback Marcus Harris? Going to talk about those guys clearly having an increased role in practice this week, starting to play better, starting to see some development from them, which we've not seen a whole lot of development on the defensive side of the ball this August. So really encouraging, because we've talked about how this depth is perilously thin. Marcus Harris, Cedric Gray starting to rise up the ranks in practice. Which guy panning out as reasonable depth is more impactful on this team? Want to hear your thoughts on that in the comments while I tell you about our friends over at the Bone and Joint Institute of Tennessee, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic care. Whenever you get hurt in life, you have to know who to trust, and we trust boneandjointtn.org. The Bone and Joint Institute is located in Franklin with over a dozen specialists who can help you get through any type of injury. They have a state-of-the-art rehab facility on campus to help your recovery. Bone and Joint can do everything under one roof for your convenience. They've got clinic, testing, imaging, surgery, and rehab. So if you need to schedule an appointment today, just go to boneandjointtn.org and they will get you hooked up.
Excited to talk more about these young Titans stars who are making a name for themselves, getting these starters reps, especially in Atlanta's joint practice. But first, if you could do us a favor, head on over to Google and leave us a 5-star review. Simply search A to Z Sports on Google. That's ATOZ Sports. Leave us a 5-star review. Tell us how much you like the show. If you have constructive criticism, we are always looking to get better, because 2025 is going to be hopefully the best year of content we are bringing you yet. And we are excited to do so. And we can only do that if we know what you guys want to see more of, what you guys want to see us fix, what you want to see us change. Criticism is a gift, but as long as you leave us a 5-star review, it helps us out a lot more than you guys may think.
Yep. So let's talk about Cedric Gray and Marcus Harris. And we've got a video. I spoke to Cedric Gray briefly after practice yesterday, talking about his elevated role amongst some other things. Here is Cedric after Atlanta's joint practices.
Yeah, I think today went pretty well. I think guys came out with a lot of energy. As you can see, a few fights broke out. So I think it was just very competitive on both sides. I don't think anybody started off slow. I think everybody came ready to play today.
Did you feel like that you were still able to be productive despite, with probably 3 interruptions that way?
Yeah. I felt like we still got a lot of stuff done. Like you said, it was a lot of chaos going on, but once everything calmed down, everybody locked back in and got back to it. I can definitely appreciate it. I think one of the biggest things that I love that Callie's doing this year is really trying to establish a culture and a standard within our team. Just the different things that he talks about in the team meetings of what we're going to be about. He talked about how this trip should bring us together. It's been a 10-day trip. We came straight from Tampa, straight here. So just trying to get everybody to build a culture and become closer together. Asking me to do, whether it's with the ones or the twos, I'm just trying to go out there and compete and show them I can play.
So we've seen more from linebacker Cedric Gray with the ones the past couple of practices. We've seen some more from rookie cornerback, 6th round pick Marcus Harris with the ones and the twos, more than we'd seen from him in the recent past. JT, I'll send you to the chat. Which of these guys panning out as developmental depth for this team, depth that can actually be relied upon on the defense, something they desperately need, would be more impactful in 2025?
Orlando kicks us off saying Cedric Gray, Darius with Marcus Harris, Ashley says Gray, Jacob says the depth is thinner than his old man hair. Which,
oh no.
Thank you for that.
Probably true.
Orlando follows it up saying Gray can be a Jayon Brown type if he can stay healthy. Richie saying Harris is much needed. Brandon saying Cedric Gray for sure. Kenneth also saying Gray. Daniel says Marcus Harris can be much more impactful. Tall Texan says Harris as CB is vastly more important. Christian taking the middle road. Boo saying both, to be honest. Pick one. No, we're not doing this today.
Not how questions work,
Not
but I
how
appreciate
it works,
the comment.
Thank you. Christopher says Marcus Harris for sure. Williams can cover for Gray. I can't say the same with our cornerbacks. Nero says Harris. A lot of pretty mixed reviews.
I'm surprised how split the answer is on this, JT, because to me, there is a very clear answer. Is that how you feel about this?
I think so.
Okay, so we both think that's Marcus Harris then?
Ooh, no. I think it's Cedric Gray.
Wow, that's crazy. You think it's clearly Cedric Gray. Okay, yes. Convince me. State your case.
Yeah, I mean, Marcus Harris has continued to get solid reps with the one, even before joint practice. I've just not been as impressed with him in terms of what he can make as an impact. Obviously I was not out there at Atlanta practice. I was not out there at Tampa practice, but from what I saw,
it, man, he was the best player out there.
But
it's not true.
But what I saw, at least in the first couple of practices, and maybe this has changed, but certainly looked like a guy who was still trying to catch up to the physicality of what you need to play as an outside corner. I've, for the longest time, have continued to say that I think Marcus Harris more so can work better in the slot. I have my questions and I have my concerns about him playing on the outside. I know when you talk about much more needed, I think you talk about what you've seen on the outside, and certainly with the depth of this team, I think if L'Jarius Sneed were to go down, which he already is, but if he comes back and goes down again, if Jarvis Brownlee Jr. goes down, I don't think there's really anything that could help this team if one of those guys goes down. I think if you have to dive into that depth and Darrell Baker were to become your number one corner, if Jarvis Brownlee Jr. were to go down and L'Jarius Sneed were to go down, you're not going to put Roger McCreary to the outside. I find that hard to believe that they would move him outside currently. But like, I think you're just pretty much kind of SOL.
Well, whether or not they'd move him out, I agree. I generally agree with you that you're probably SOL. I think the reason we have different answers is because it sounds like you've approached the question differently than me. It sounds like your answer is Gray because you have more confidence based on what you've seen in Gray being a good player than Marcus Harris being a good player, which I would agree with so far. I would say I think Marcus Harris has made more progress in the last 3.5 weeks than Cedric Gray has, and they both made progress. But Marcus, especially the two practices I saw in Atlanta, was the most big boy action from him that I'd seen, and I thought that he looked better than I'd seen him before. The reason why for me it's Marcus Harris is because I'm taking it more theoretical. Like if both of these guys, if you tell me that both of these guys are, as they currently are trending to be, good depth pieces, who is more impactful? That's why I think there's no question it's Marcus Harris, because to your point, they are so, I mean, they're thin at linebacker. I'm not going to say that they're in good shape at linebacker, but I think they have two starters that are currently healthy and currently promising at linebacker. And I think linebacker is also an increasingly unimportant position in the modern NFL. And you can get by with one decent linebacker. Is it great? No. But can you survive? Yes. Can you survive without starting cornerbacks? No, sir. You cannot. And the Titans do have 3 starting level cornerbacks who all kind of have questions about them right now and aren't exactly encouraging. And so that's why if Marcus Harris can enter that, if he can just enter that Darrell Baker Jr. territory of like, do you love that he's out there? No. But are you already giving up just because he's on the field? Also, no. That would be huge. That would be huge. If you just had 2 guys that were like, are they going to stop all the bleeding? No. Are they probably going to get a touchdown scored on them? Yes. Are they going to single-handedly ruin the game for you? Which we, think back on the last 3 Titans years. There have been some cornerbacks that kind of did that. We're like, oh, where were you for the, I won't throw anybody under the bus, but the blank game where this guy allowed 7 catches for 170 yards and a touchdown. I don't think that is going to happen let me put it this way. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I think if you can eliminate that kind of concern from the backup cornerback room because of Darrell Baker Jr., who I think is that already, and because of Marcus Harris, who I think the team is thinking is trending in that direction, and they're hoping he can be that this year, then I do feel significantly better about their ability on the perimeter, because right now I don't. Like, I think we're on the same page. Right now, we feel like if Snead's not out there, they may be in really, really hot water immediately.
I think that's fair. I think it's fair to say that like I approached it differently as well, because I do think that with how Denard Wilson wants to attack opposing offensive lines and get pressure on the quarterbacks, there's a reality where this other linebacker outside of Cody Barton is going to be pressuring a lot more than linebackers have in the past for the Titans. And I think that's where you get Cedric Gray playing meaningful snaps every single week, not just as a reserve in case James Williams goes down. I think there's a reality where Cedric Gray is getting in the game consistently, playing meaningful snaps because of how Denard Wilson wants to design these different looks. I also disagree with this comment here in the chat. David Smith saying they just signed a linebacker yesterday. They don't believe in Cedric. Clearly didn't miss the Otis Reese weird end to his career or tenure in Tennessee. That
career, wow, you're kicking up the NFL. Get out the league.
Well, I mean, yeah. If you saw that linebacker as a testament to they don't believe in Cedric, you didn't pay attention to who they released there.
I don't. It's not a reflection of Cedric.
But I will say, like, in terms of the immediate impact, I think it's Cedric because he's going to be playing more meaningful snaps. Now, I do agree. Like, if you can get Marcus Harris in his first year, once again, yet another day 3 corner, if he can play to the same level-ish of that Jarvis Brownlee Jr. type of
well, if he can do that,
production.
That's incredible. Yeah.
But, like, I it's hard to say that a day 3 guy is going to be where Darrell Baker is in year 5 or 6, because obviously Darrell Baker also not even a draft pick, a UDFA from like 4 or 5 years ago.
Actually, like, I don't think he's been in the league that long. I think he just feels like it, but maybe I'm wrong.
Really? I don't know how long.
Year 3 for him. I'm gonna look it up. You keep going.
Yeah, but once again, another UDFA. Like, there is a ceiling, I think, for Marcus Harris this year, and if he can get to where you're relatively close to where that ceiling is for Marcus Harris, I think that is good. But once again, there's not an immediate need for him, hopefully. And I think that's why I say Cedric Gray has been more impactful, because he's going to be out there in a rotational type of way because of how many different weird and tricky looks Denard is going to try to kind of dial up against different offenses.
I think it's a fair point, and I also think that if you made me, pick who is a better football player today, there's no question in my mind it is Cedric Gray at the moment. But I do think that Marcus Harris is tracking to be a depth savior, which is kind of a weird designation of this team at cornerback. But it really is. They are so desperate for somebody besides Darrell Baker to emerge as reliable-ish on the outside. And I think Marcus is the first guy. We've been looking for 3.5 weeks now. It's the first guy to be like, oh, maybe him.
And Daniel says there's an absolutely an immediate need for him. Cornerback 4 plays. Yeah, cornerback 4 right now is Darrell Baker, hopefully.
That's right.
Like, you have
right now he's cornerback 3 because until
you're hoping McCreary, Jarvis Brownlee Jr., and L'Jarius Sneed are the cornerbacks you have out there for almost every single play. So,
all right, we've got sports trivia to get to, but not before we answer some of your questions. JT, I know that you starred some odds and ends questions. Do we want to run through those real quick?
Yeah, let's do that real quick. First of all, Nick Ewing says, Easton, how did the new kicker and punter look? Any concerns? I know this is something we talked about on Tuesday's show while you were there at joint practice. I had my concerns about how Johnny Hekker looked last week. It certainly seems like there weren't a lot of good reviews from him again yesterday. However, do you have a different opinion? How the kicker and punter are looking? Your confidence level in them right now?
The kicker, I really don't have any thoughts because the field goal that they were kicking field goals on was so out of the way at practice because of what we were limited. We couldn't walk. We had less area to walk around at the Falcons facility than at the Titans facility. So I really didn't get an eye on that. I do know that last week was the first time that I was kind of concerned about the kicker. So do I have the utmost confidence yet in the Titans field goal kicking situation? No, but we'll see. The punter situation was rough yesterday. It was kind of a shank fest there for a minute from Johnny Hekker. So how do they look? Any concerns? The answer is yes, there are some concerns. Am I panicked? No, but am I concerned? Kinda. We'll see.
That's fair. I think, is there an outside kind of world where they're trying some directional punting type of things, or do you think it was legit shanks?
I mean, it wasn't literally like, oh, the ball went 20 yards. There were just some clear mishits. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Next one here, Daniel comes back with a question. How does Draymond Jones look? How are the edges looks? I think is all. You can also take that a step further and ask about how the edge position has looked in these practices, because Atlanta has a pretty decent offensive line.
They do. And caveat, I spent the majority of my time, the way the joint practice works, you got to pick for the most part, whether you're watching Titans offense or Titans defense, because they're on two separate fields. So I primarily watched the Titans offense. From what I heard about the defense and from what little I saw, the edge group was not getting a whole lot of wins. Draymond Jones, I did not hear one note from anybody that watched defense intently on Draymond Jones. So that's not to say that he was awful, but he did not seem to stand out to anybody enough to mention him to me. So do with that what you will. I neither positive nor negative. I have no thoughts on Draymond Jones. Arden Key put together a string of some nice wins yesterday. Nick Suss watched the defense pretty intently and said that Arden flashed yesterday. Arden is going to have to play a big role for this team as a rusher because he is a good rusher. And when he's put in a position to win as a rusher, he really can impact. I mean, he's the best Titans. He was the best rusher on the team last year. Not really arguable to me. Like, Harold Landry had 9 sacks. Get out of here. Don't care. It was the phoniest 9 sack stat line of all time. So I think Arden will play a big role. Yeah.
And Daniel also says, are Folk and Stonehouse still available? I know Folk is not. I believe he's on the Jets.
Neither is Stonehouse. He is a Bronco. So you'll see him here in a couple weeks.
Yeah. Next one, Kitchen says, how does Bryce Oliver fare up? Especially, he had a promising game last week. He had some good practices. How did he look this week?
Bryce is.
We talked a little bit more about Calvin and especially Alec Ayman, not as much Bryce Oliver this week.
Yeah, and that's not to say that Bryce disappeared. He made. I mean, I think he had the best catch of the day on Tuesday, an otherwise bad practice. Bryce is Bryce, man. Yeah, I've talked to you about this. Bryce Oliver is an ethical baller. He's an ethical ball player. He's an honorable football player. He just plays. He's got that NWI to him where he's like, this guy does the right thing at the right time. He's in the right place. He makes the tough catches. He does the work. Like he's an ethical baller. He's gonna be an impact on this team. He's gonna be your starting gunner. He's going to get some run at the receiver position where I do think he can make some plays. Is he going to be a feature of the offense? No, at least not at first. Maybe eventually he can carve out an NWI role for himself like NWI did last year, and it's just kind of like the touchdown king. I'm not banking on that by any means, and I don't think that he's ever going to be a volume receiver in any way. But can he be an impact on the offense and certainly on special teams? Yes, and that's why he's going to be a big part of this team.
Daniel, 2 more here, and then we'll get to sports trivia. Daniel says, yes or no, should the Titans sign Kendall Fuller, Rasul Douglas, or James Bradbury to elevate the depth at cornerback? Do you think they need to add another cornerback?
I mean, I think that they will add another cornerback at some point. I think that they'll be pretty active in especially the waiver claim process, since they have the number 1 waiver pick, and a number of guys are going to be cut down here in a couple of weeks. But the signings of these guys that are available that are going to, that are wanting money. I don't think one, I certainly don't think it's happening. Number two, I don't think that they should at this point. Like that, I don't think those guys are putting you over the edge. Maybe if Snead is like definitively, if you get to a point where you're like, well, Snead's not going to be an impact this year, it's a wash, it's over, then maybe you consider it. But I'm not running to sign those guys right now.
Final question here. Bork says, why doesn't the Falcons facility have parking spots?
Well, they do. They have a lot of parking spots out front. They just didn't save any of them for the 7 of us that came from Tennessee. They have a lot of people out to practice every single day, a lot of fans, and they lump visiting media in with those fans. I'm hoping that they lump their own media in with those fans, because how rude would that have been if the home media gets assigned parking spots in the facility, but the visitors are sent to the riffraff lots? That would be, it's not very hospitable of them. I don't think that's what they did. So, but it is what it is. We survived. It's not the end of the world.
All right, that's it.
All right, sports trivia. JT here on a Thursday. I heard yesterday was good until it wasn't. Is that a fair assessment of?
Yeah, I mean, I think it went pretty well. We had people saying that we did so well it wasn't going to count because some of the questions were too easy.
Did you beat the over/under?
We did.
All right, well, we'll make it 2 days in a row. Sports trivia brought to you by our friends over at Wilson County Hyundai. Make WilsonCountyHyundai.com a part of your new car buying process. JT, hold that thought while I go to the dozen trivia. Click. It is on my screen. Let me hit the share screen button. Are you ready to?
I'm ready.
All right. You got the easy job here. And hit it. All right. We got some college football. We got some college basketball. So, we'll see those things.
Orlando says over under 4.5. He still calls BS yesterday.
Was it just some layup questions? Like what?
Yeah. Let's see. Orlando, no, I thought that was a pretty smooth transition. I don't know. I think so. I would have had it up by now. Let's see. There were a couple easy ones. Like yesterday, it was like, where was Elvis from? Or like,
okay. Well, sometimes you get lucky.
That was pretty easy. So,
hopefully today's the same. Lock in the chat. We're gonna need your help on some of these. We'll start with the NFL. Go counterclockwise, and here we go. While he only had 200 regular season receiving yards for his entire career, Jeff Janis, had 145 yards and 2 touchdowns in a single playoff game for this NFC team in 2016.
That's Green Bay Packers legend, Jeff Janis.
Is that Packers stat right there? All right, good call. Brands and products. While Spider-Man is a Marvel character, this entertainment division of the company primarily owns his film rights. Sony.
Yep.
Television. While more known for his films, this actor is currently the lead in Apple TV's Bad Monkey and has had roles over the last decade on True Detective and Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Bad Monkey. I don't know what Bad Monkey is.
Never heard of Bad Monkey. True Detective. If it's not season 1 of True Detective, then I don't know. Curb Your Enthusiasm. I know the folks in Curb, but I have no idea which one of them is.
Let's consult the chat. Daniel says Vince Vaughn. Jeff says Vince Vaughn.
Clearly, I've not watched.
We go Vince Vaughn.
They seem confident. All right. Good call.
Cool.
The third installment of an action comedy franchise, this 2003 film featured a virtual reality-based video game. Sylvester Stallone as a villain and Elijah Wood cameo as
that's one of the greatest movies of all time.
Right.
Spy Kids 3D.
Spy Kids 3. Wait, Sky Kids, idiot.
Wow, what a pull there. That's a great
Uber.
Question.
That is a good question. We make a move and act a fool while we up in the club, and nobody do it like we do. It's so show us like we do it. So show us some love. Our recurring lyrics in this 2004 The Game and 50 Cent song. Not my joint, man. I don't know.
Not my
joint.
Expertise here. We're gonna need some.
We're my early 2000s 50 Cent fans.
Yeah, we're gonna need
chime
some
in the chat. We make a move and act a fool while we up in the club. How we do.
We do. All right.
Sure. Simply Perfect is a slogan associated with this brand of tequila. It has variants like El Alto, Piedra, Exo Cafe, and Cristalino. Simply Perfect tequila.
No idea.
Tequila brands. Simply Perfect.
I don't feel like 1800 would be simply perfect.
No.
I don't think Casamigos is simply perfect.
Don Julio? All right,
Don Julio? Well,
Sure.
Don Julio, Patron. Let's see.
Well, the chat was wrong. Way to go, guys. College basketball. Before flaming out at Louisville, Chris Mack went 215 and 97 as the head coach of this A10 team and later a Big East school.
That's Xavier.
Okay, sure. Good poll. I would not.
I mean, that's like I live 15 minutes from there. My mom's a huge Xavier fan. So.
Fantastic. This Auburn defensive lineman won the 2011 SEC Defensive Player of the Year and was crucial to their BCS championship season. Man, I should know this. Who was the best defender on Cam's team? Or that's not Cam's team. Or no, it was Cam's team,
Cam Newton,
right?
Yeah,
it was Cam's team.
Yeah, the chat is saying that they got it right. Everyone said Patron.
The first two I saw were Don Julio, so blame
Caleb
the Don Julio.
Caleb says Nick Farley. Fairley?
Really? Fairly? Okay.
Nick Fairley. Well, hold on. Let's see the chat.
I'm just seeing if it's even an option. It is an option.
Okay. Anybody else agree with that? E-tackle?
Jeff says Nick Fairley as well. All right, we'll say Nick Fairley.
Nick Farley.
Good stuff.
Nice.
That is Robert Pattinson on the outside.
Wait.
Who's the girl?
It looks like Daisy Ridley, but we just had Daisy Ridley. Like,
it's not her eye. It's not quite the same eyes, I don't think.
It'd be weird if they did it like too. But like that looks like her smile, like the big teeth.
Yeah,
the staple of Daisy Ridley. Anna
Kendrick? Maybe.
Actually,
I kind of think that's right. I don't know. I don't have a better answer.
We have a lot of people saying Anna Kendrick. I agree with that. Let's do that.
Nope. Okay, what was this? Patron?
Yeah, we can at least get that one.
So we were half wrong on the girl. Who was the girl? Nope, not Nick Fairley. It was Daisy Ridley.
That's crazy. They gave us that last week. They gave us that last week. That's crazy.
Honestly, it's 4D chess on their part.
It does look like Anna Kendrick, though. I was on board with that.
Yeah, but your instincts were right. I shouldn't have doubted you. I just really thought they wouldn't do it twice.
Yeah, no, that was weird. Hey, well,
not a terrible day. What was our time? Something like 4 or something.
Yeah.
4:30 on the dot, actually.
On the dot.
So it's, I think this is a push considering
That's what Orlando said. A push. So.
It's a push. That's a push. All right. Well, that's our show. Austin and I will be back tomorrow to talk about some more hot topics from joint practice, as well as previewing the preseason game tomorrow night. So exciting stuff. Keep it locked here on the A to Z Sports channel. Keep it locked on A2ZSports.com, where I will have a number of interesting articles go in the next couple of days. Looking forward to sharing those with you guys. Until then, have a great rest of your Thursday.